lack of predictive planning, if you will, this is a great case where the father apparently reported his wrongdoing. The FBI had plenty of notice. This was a violent individual already. So you had all the indications that this is somebody that they needed to keep an eye on, and they clearly didn't, even when he left and went for a year, apparently, of further radicalization.
Right.
Congressman, it's Dagan McDowell, but don't you and everyone in Congress bear some of the responsibility for, one, not closing the visa loopholes that allowed 5 of the 9/11 hijackers to overstay their visas in this country? We're still waiting to track people coming in this country and leaving on tourist visas, while we've got 500,000 people just last year overstayed their tourist visas. We're at least about 2 years out from tracking these people at U.S. airports. Don't you and everyone in Washington bear some of that responsibility for not fixing that?
Well, you know, I appreciate the question. The answer is those of us who have pushed for it, who've voted repeatedly, particularly under George W. Bush, turned over huge amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars to do just that, voted for and passed laws that require the executive branch to do it. The only responsibility we bear is that we find ourselves unable to hold this administration accountable to obey the law. You know, have we in fact passed laws and funded the government to do it? Yes. Dagan, this is one of the problems that I think we're all facing in Washington, is the American people are upset because the executive branch does whatever it wants to do, often regardless of what the law says or what the funding for these things are. I opened up by saying, you know, how does Congress be more responsible when the administration says, oops, we lost a bunch of documents and we made citizens out of nearly 1,000 people that were supposed to be deported for good reason?
Well, that's the issue, Congressman. And we talk about this every morning, really, because it feels like every agency has become politicized. I mean, you've got the IRS targeting conservatives. You've got Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton on her plane. You've got, you know, the FBI, Jim Comey, going right up to the line but not crossing it and saying no recommendation of any conviction here. Government documents show 194 Clinton donors were appointed to State Department advisory boards during her time as Secretary of State. That makes up nearly 40% of all appointments made under Secretary Clinton. So, in other words, she was giving her donors jobs in government. Are you concerned with how the Clinton Foundation donors impacted her decisions as Secretary of State?
Well, I'm concerned because this is part of a pattern. This is the pattern that we saw in Arkansas, and then we saw it when the so-called renting out the Lincoln bedroom. People, of course, most of your listeners may not remember that, in fact, if you were a big donor, you got to stay in the White House in the Clinton administration. This is a continuation. There's no question that there's a reward for giving to the Clintons to their personal gain. This has been going on a very long time, and it's part of what, rightfully so, we have to find ways to stop. We have to find legal ways to stop it. But in the next 49 days, the American people have to make a decision of do they want to trust the Clintons based on a track record of repeatedly not telling the truth, not playing by the rules, and quite frankly, selling out the best interests of the United States in return for benefit to the family.
Right. Congressman, I'm a legal immigrant, and it seems to me that there's a racial dimension to this. I had to go through all the procedures. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I won't be until next year. And yet these illegal immigrants who should be deported, thousands of them have been given citizenship ahead of legal immigrants like me. And while I hear what you say about the executive branch, it really feels like the establishment Republican Congress is not fighting back. Couldn't you have done more? Couldn't you have stopped these political appointees being put up there? Couldn't you have held the Department of Homeland Security to account? It feels like you're very passive.
Well, this is one of the challenges, and, you know, you get people on the air who say this from time to time, but, you know, in my book, Watchdog, what I tried to lay out was the scandals, but I also laid out the fact that Congress needs to give itself more tools and use those tools. Today, we're going to have the IRS commissioner in front of Judiciary Committee to try to answer for how he, in his opinion, botched rather than deliberately lied to Congress.
Right.
You know, is a hearing a good tool? Not particularly. Is impeachment a good tool? Not particularly. Is Congress in a position to make changes? Absolutely. And we've got to take responsibility. Yeah. The American people are upset because Congress hasn't done its job, but Congress hasn't even given itself the tools to do it.
We will leave it there. Congressman, great to see you as always. Thanks so much, sir.